When was the last time you said no to a child and stood by that no? Now think about how many times you gave in to avoid the crying, the tantrum, or the discomfort. Educating hurts. Not educating destroys. And if you think you're protecting your child from pain by avoiding conflict, you might unknowingly be pushing them straight toward a cliff. Today, we're going to talk about the silent cost of omission. We're going to talk about courage, love, and the role that you, I, all of us play in shaping the character of a generation. Educating through pain doesn't mean punishing or hurting. It has nothing to do with violence, aggression, or coldness. Educating through pain is having the courage to frustrate, even when everything inside you wants to prevent someone else's suffering. It's resisting the urge to give in to the whining request, the persistent tantrum, or the emotional plea, because you know that giving in now might cost much more later. Setting limits is teaching that there is a world beyond immediate desire, beyond instant gratification. It's preparing the child to understand that not everything will go their way, exactly when they want it. And that takes firmness. Educating through pain is being the adult who, even when tired, uncertain, or judged by others, chooses to be the pillar that supports, guides, and teaches. It's allowing the child to cry today, yes, so that tomorrow they know how to deal with the frustrations of the real world without falling apart. True love is not permissive. It is responsible. It doesn't fear being disliked. It patiently plants what will only be harvested many years later. And that's why educating hurts. It hurts because it's a process of renunciation. It hurts because it demands that we be more than nice or popular. It demands that we be stable, consistent, and committed to the future, not just the present. We live today in the age of emotional fragility, a time when the slightest contradiction is seen as an offense, when feelings are placed above facts, and emotional pain is often used as an absolute argument to avoid any discomfort. We've never had so many young people who are emotionally fragile, so lost in the face of reality. And this isn't due to a lack of love. On the contrary, we've seen extreme care, an overvaluation of immediate well-being, but rather a lack of confrontation, a lack of preparation to deal with life's natural frustrations. Many young people today can't hear a no without falling apart. They don't know how to take criticism without internalizing it as a personal attack. The slightest demand becomes a crisis. We are raising an emotionally spoiled generation, not out of malice, but from misdirected overprotection. Because in trying to avoid wounds, we've stopped building resilience. The school can't correct anymore because it traumatizes. The teacher can't demand because it oppresses. The parent can't reprimand because it hurts self-esteem. But is this wave of hypersensitivity truly protecting, or simply making these individuals even more fragile in the face of real life? The world will not pause to accommodate every unresolved frustration, and when that moment comes, the fall is far more painful for those who never learned how to stumble. And why are so many parents afraid to educate? The answer is complex, but it's deeply tied to feelings of guilt and insecurity. Parents who work too much, who have little time, who feel absent, often try to compensate for that absence with permissiveness. It's easier to give than to say no. It's more comfortable to give in than to face the tears, the hurt look, the rebellious silence. On top of that, we're living under unprecedented social pressure. Social media has created a stage where everyone seems to have the perfect parenting formula. The mother who disciplines is criticized. The father who sets limits is attacked. The algorithms reward the light, gentle, trauma-free discourse, but they hide the bitter fruits of a lack of firmness. And in the midst of all this, the father who tries to be firm feels outdated. The mother who remains consistent feels cruel. Guilt tightens, doubt paralyzes. But we must remember, educating is not about pleasing. Educating is about shaping, about preparing for reality, about choosing the path of love that cares enough to say, "This isn't right, and I'm going to show you why." It is enduring the discomfort of the present because you have in mind the construction of a stronger, fairer, more humane future. And when education fails, when boundaries are left behind, what happens? What we see is a rise in lost, arrogant young people, unable to cope with the world's no. We see teenagers who disrespect teachers, who challenge any form of authority, who don't recognize consequences. Because at home, everything was allowed. because no one had the courage to teach that freedom walks hand in hand with responsibility. And then life charges its price, and it charges dearly. College doesn't coddle, a boss doesn't tolerate tardiness, a relationship doesn't survive without respect, and the world, this world that is hard, hits back with force when it wasn't taught with firmness. Educating is preparing for the world, not for comfort, and the world is not comfortable. It rejects, frustrates, demands. That's why pain must be part of the process. The pain of waiting, the pain of not succeeding on the first try, the pain of acknowledging mistakes, the pain of losing, because it is in that pain that strength is born. That's where character, resilience, and maturity are built. And when we protect too much, we rob the other of the chance to grow. It's like trying to teach someone to swim without letting them enter the water. It's not possible. Discomfort is part of growth. Mistakes are essential. Discipline is liberating. And there are so many examples of parents who educated with firmness and now reap the rewards. A father who stood by his no, even when it was hard. A mother who set limits, even when she was judged. And years later, those children return and say, "Thank you. Thank you for not letting me do everything I wanted. Thank you for teaching me that life requires effort." Because in the end, the children who cry today because of the limits they have will cry tomorrow with gratitude for having been lucky enough to have someone who loved them enough not to give up on educating them. Educating hurts, but not educating destroys. It destroys self-esteem, it destroys responsibility, it destroys the sense of reality. We urgently need to reclaim the courage to educate. As parents, as uncles, as grandparents, as teachers, as a society. We need to come together to teach new generations that the world owes them nothing and that every achievement requires effort. And that starts at home, starts with small no's, starts with the discomfort of daily discipline. Educating is not easy, but it is necessary. It is urgent. It is the only way to form whole, conscious, and prepared adults. Now pause for a moment and reflect. What kind of adult are you raising today? What are your children, nieces, nephews, or students learning from you? Your silent omission may be costing too much, and maybe it's time to change. If this message touched you in any way, share it. Leave a comment. Tell your story. Let's build a community that understands that true love educates. With pain, yes, but with purpose. Because the future begins now, and it begins at home.